You might have clicked on this video thinking that it's too late to start a 3DS collection in 2023. And you might be right, but also I think maybe it's actually not too late. I've said in a previous video that I thought I kind of missed out on the 3DS when it was in its prime, and that these days it feels like it could be the perfect console for me. If I'm honest, I had a bit of a panic. The eShop is closing down soon, and I realised just how many games I'd missed out on that I think I would really enjoy. That closure at the end of March sadly means that some games are going to disappear forever, and for others we'll have to rely on the physical copies and the cartridges to play. As we all know, the prices of these are not going to stay cheap forever, and in fact in some cases there are certain games that have already started to rocket up in price to unbelievable levels. I might feel differently if Nintendo was a slightly different company, but the fact that each of their consoles has a gimmick, it does make it much harder for them to port games over, or maybe they just don't want to. On top of that, they just love to open brand new online stores for each console, and then they close them down much quicker than most people would like, and quite a lot quicker than other console manufacturers. And finally, the Nintendo Switch Online backwards catalogue doesn't really strike me with a lot of hope that we'll get a modern way to play some of these great DS and 3DS games anytime soon. I think I'm also feeling pretty nostalgic for how I used to enjoy everything that a game had to offer. These days there's just so much releasing, and we see so many things online pulling us on to the latest and greatest games. I very rarely actually finish a game, and even if I do finish it, I very rarely take the time to play through it multiple times or, explore all the extras. Usually me finishing a game these days is just beating the main story and then I move on. And when it comes to the games I don't finish, well, I have a good time playing them, but I often find that after a while I don't want to keep playing the same old game. I'm sort of drawn to other things that I see online. I'm not sure if this is something that I can actually change, but I'd like to try. And so a couple of months ago, I finally decided I was going to try and build out my 3DS collection, and at last getting round to playing some of these incredible games. I've now been bringing this new 3DS XL with me pretty much everywhere I go. It's so easy to just pop it open and play a little bit here and there. There are certain games on the 3DS that really lend themselves to this playstyle, I think, where it works quite well just playing in small segments. I live in a small developing town, so I haven't had any street passes, but I still bring it on walks and on a few trips into the closest city, hoping one day for that little green light. So the biggest part of building a 3DS collection is of course the games. I already had a small selection built up over the years, and for the last couple of months I've been trying to get my hands on as many games as possible. I'm including original DS games here as well, but generally I have a mix of eShop games, physical games in the box, and cartridge only games from when I was younger and I just didn't care about boxes at all. Wouldn't it be nice if we could go back and tell our younger selves that we would care about things like boxes? I just had so many that I threw away. As you can see, RPGs are really my thing. Series like Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Dragon Quest, Shin Megami Tensei. I do have some of the classic first-party games as well, things like Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, Super Smash Bros, Zelda titles. I would love to tell you that I've played all of these games for hours and hours, but if you did watch that first 3DS video, you'll know that actually most of these I didn't play all that much at all when I first picked them up. If we take a look at my playtime, well, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is actually what I played the most, followed by a couple of Pokemon games and Fire Emblem Awakening. I don't actually think I ever finished either of the Pokemon games or even the Fire Emblem Awakening. Instead, I think it's more likely that I restarted them over again once or twice, and that's why they sort of have a longer playtime. After that, we come to Animal Crossing New Leaf and Fantasy Life. And these are both actually games that I only started playing recently, Animal Crossing last year and Fantasy Life really only in the last few weeks. I really like both of these games. They're great games to relax to, I think, and both of them seem to have just so much content. New Leaf is very cute and it has all these mini games that I didn't realize older Animal Crossing games had. Things like going to Tortimer Island to do bite-sized puzzles and adventures is great fun. And I also managed to get a Wii U item that lets you play a desert island escape game, and I'm really enjoying that as well. I've heard that there's a 3DS item in the game too, which has a Match 3 style minigame tied to it, and I'm really looking forward to finding that. I also really like Main Street in New Leaf. It's a fun way to manage all the shops, and there seems to be a constant loop of changing or upgrading buildings there, and I think it's a really nice way to handle that. And Fantasy Life? Well, Fantasy Life just seems to have an endless amount of things to do. I think at this point I've played it for about 15 hours and I've not even unlocked all of the different lives yet. I've mostly been playing as a paladin and I was enjoying doing the main quests, but I'm concerned that I'm going through them a little bit too fast, so recently I've decided to go back and unlock some more lives and just sort of try and progress those instead. I did buy the expansion content for this game because I think I'll get a lot out of it and I was worried about forgetting about it when the 3DS eShop closes. The only downside that I have with these two games is that neither of them really have much of a main storyline, which is something that I usually quite like in my games. It helps me to get through them. It sort of pulls me along. I did mention that in Fantasy Life I was enjoying the main story quests, but it seems like I'll run out of this quite quickly, and it's not really the focus of the game either. The focus of the game is more sort of their grinding and leveling up each life and getting better in that aspect. And so neither of them really having much of a story means that I will sometimes flip open my 3DS but not really fancy playing either of them because I'm looking for a different type of game to like the cozy style games. So I've been wondering about choosing a story game alongside these, but I've not really decided yet, and I'm not sure if having 3 games on the go will work for me. So as you can see, my collection is slowly growing, but of course there are still loads of games I would like to get. There's first party games like Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, Samus Returns, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and this one is actually high up on my list, I'll probably get this next. There's games of a style that I've sort of never played before, so things like Tomodachi Life and Luigi's Mansion. I've never played anything like those before. Monster Hunter Story seems like it will be my kind of game. There's Professor Layton games I'd like to pick up, and there's lots of niche RPGs on the 3DS that I haven't got around to getting yet. And these are only 3DS games that I'm talking about. I've not really looked into what DS games I might like to get and if there are any of those ones that are really good. If you're watching this and you've got any suggestions for some great 3DS or DS games that I should pick up before I miss my chance, then please do let me know down in the comments. Of course, a lot of these games these days are either eShop exclusive or the prices of the physical versions are becoming so expensive that it's just not sensible to buy a physical copy of. You sort of have to go eShop. So maybe we should talk about the closure of the eShop. I'm recording this in mid-Feb, but I think by the time you're watching it, it'll be around the start of March, which gives us just a few weeks left with the eShop open. There's so much that's going to be lost when that happens, and many people have made much better videos on this topic than I could. Still though, for me, it means that I'm now sort of rushing to try and quickly pick up as many games as I can because I'm worried that either I'll not have the chance to buy the digital-only games or any physical copies will sort of rocket up in price. And I think it's kind of inevitable then that people's thoughts turn towards homebrewing, and it is something that's been on my mind as well. So far though, I have been pretty hesitant, I've been a bit reluctant, I've never done anything like it before, and I'm a bit worried about wrecking my 3DS, I don't know if that's even possible. Probably the main reason though is that I think suddenly having access to the entire 3DS, DS library, and I think you can get GBA games as well, I think having access to all of those wouldn't necessarily be a good thing for me personally. I can often get pretty big decision paralysis when I have too many options, I'm not sure which game to play, and then I sort of end up not playing anything. I just sort of sit there wondering what to do. And so I think if I suddenly had access to the entire library of these systems, that would kick in hard. So for now, I'm happy picking up games at a slower pace and actually trying to play each one before I move on to another one. The closure of the eShop is making this really difficult though, as I try and get as many games as possible before things get too crazy. And this sort of relates back to what I said before when I was talking about how I used to play games over and over when I was younger, but it's not really something I do anymore. And it's because there's just so much out there, and now I'm trying to limit myself on the 3DS a bit and not homebrew, but you know, the eShop closing still means I'm having to buy the games as fast as possible and giving myself too many options and too many things I want to sort of move on to. I kind of end up rushing through finishing the bare minimum of a game so that I can get to the next game. So for now I'm not homebrewing, but once the eShop does close though, if there are any games that I've not managed to get hold of, then I think this might change my mind. Overall, do I think it's possible to start a collection now? Yes, I absolutely do. Although I do think that time is running out on some of the games you might want to play. If you are going to start a collection now, then I would suggest picking up some games on the eShop pretty quickly, and then you are going to be able to find physical copies of games for a while, but just be prepared for those to rocket up in price in second-hand shops. Personally, there are still so many games that I want to get through, and this is becoming one of my favourite consoles for sure. I think I'm going to hang on to mine and play this tiny little handheld for a very long time to come. The 3DS might be taking its final bow, but for me at least, it's not dead yet.